Governor Newsom sharing his frustrations after witnessing California's retail theft crisis firsthand. The governor says the clerk actually blamed him for the surge in shoplifting before she recognized who he was.
As we're checking out, the woman says, "Oh, he's just walking out. He's going to pay for that." I said, "Well, why don't you stop him?" She goes, "Oh, the governor." Swear to God, true story. And my mom's great. The governor lowered the threshold. There's no accountability.
The governor didn't appear to realize that reporters had joined this Zoom press conference when he voiced his frustration about being blamed by a Target employee for the rise in retail theft in California.
I said, "That's just not true." And I said, "We have the 10th toughest, $950, the 10th toughest in America." She didn't even know what I was talking about. By the way, it's the 10th toughest in America. So look it up. No one gives a damn about that.
Now, to be fair, Governor Newsom is not the one that had Prop 47 passed. Prop 47 was passed before he was elected. But what this does show is it does show how disconnected our leadership is from the people that are actually being impacted in the communities. I've seen this happen over and over again. There's so many different leaders, governors, senators, you name it, that will go out there and push the laws or push agendas that they absolutely are completely disconnected from. As a leader, we have to know exactly what's plaguing our communities. It's just imperative. I mean, if I'm the governor of the state, I need to know exactly what's happening in these retail stores and what's not happening. Right now, there's a complete push amongst a lot of law enforcement agencies on how to combat retail theft, because what's happened is a lot of people go into these stores with not a care in the world, knowing that if they walk out with less than $950, nothing is essentially going to happen. So let's go ahead and talk about that for a second. What does happen? If I were to walk into Walmart right now and steal $300 worth of merchandise, what's going to probably happen? Well, what's going to initially happen is you're going to walk out that store without anybody confronting you. So no loss prevention, nobody confronting you. Why? Because the store is going to say, look, is it worth me putting my employees at risk and at danger to go stop somebody that's going to steal $300 worth of merchandise? Well, the problem is that law enforcement, especially if you work in a bigger or busy city, they're probably not going to respond that quickly, because in their minds, it's just a misdemeanor property crime. So unless you steal over $950, it's a misdemeanor property crime. If you get out there and law enforcement does see you take the $300 worth of merchandise out in front of the store, they may say, hey, look, we don't have the time. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically issue you a citation. Here's your ticket. Here's your court date. Make sure you go to court so that way you can see a judge. And at that moment in time, a lot of people will say, well, there's no punishment at all, especially if it's a misdemeanor. Well, you're right. And so this started happening over and over and over again. And people start realizing that, look, I'm going to push it to the limit. I'm going to go into the store and I'm going to steal $940 worth of merchandise. And they're not going to do anything. At the very least, it's going to be a misdemeanor crime. This is why it's so important for people to understand, our leadership to understand the laws that are in place and how it's impacting those that live in the community. So does this all fall on the governor himself? No, it doesn't. Why? Because we voted for Prop 47. Who do I mean by we? We, the people, have voted on Prop 47. So this is something I also want to stay on for a second, because this is something that we have to really pay attention to. We're going into a new election season, and with that comes a lot of new propositions that are going to be wanting to get passed, and a lot of different bills that want to be passed. And if you just go through and just say, A, like a Scantron from a test, like you're in high school, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Read the fine line, read the fine print of what these bills are going to do for your community, because you might be surprised at what it does. When Prop 47 was initially passed, it was listed as the measure that would support Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. You tell me, how does reducing felonies to misdemeanors go under the umbrella of a Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act? But if you don't read the fine print, you don't realize that a lot of these felonies have been reduced to misdemeanors. You don't realize that there's a lot of, cocaine and all this other stuff has been reduced from being a felony to a misdemeanor now. That's why it's so important for you to read the fine print. Again, we are all seeing the byproduct of what we've done as a state of California. I live in this state as well. We have to be able to draw a line in the sand. This is not about Democrat or Republican. This is not about left or right. We have to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, look, I'm tired of my neighborhoods looking like this, because we're embracing this criminal mindset. I want to read something from a comment that came across my desk the other day when I made the recent post about In-N-Out leaving. Now, there were some people that said, oh, oh, this is bureaucracy and this and that, and that's not really true. I had 2 messages came through that have impacted people directly that basically reaffirmed what I made in that In-N-Out post. Number 1, this comment said, I live in the Bay Area and this is all true. If you were there or if you went through drive-thrus, you were basically asking to get robbed. Many other franchises and mom and pop shops have closed because of this, and it's only getting worse. Those people are starting to make their way out to the suburbs and ultimately bringing that crap hole lifestyle over here. So that's one comment. Here's the other one that actually was from a DM of a person that I know. I know this person personally. I'm not going to use his name. Personal story here on that In-N-Out closure. Last year when we landed to go to the racetrack, we stopped there to grab a burger, parked, walked to the door, and then immediately turned around to our rental car being broken into and the individual being behind the driver pointing a pistol at us. There were 2 police cruisers 200 yards away. They didn't care to do anything and just said file a report. Said, yeah, we've seen them doing it all day, but we can't touch them. This is stuff that's coming from people that I know that is actually occurring in some of these neighborhoods like Oakland. So for those of you that say, oh, this is just a bureaucracy or this and that, no, it's not. If you were living in a neighborhood, you would see firsthand. And so that's why I tell people we have to draw a line in the sand. We have to stop putting up with this behavior, and we got to start voting for the right measures that are going to impact your community for the better. What do you guys think in the comment section below?